The arena in Las Vegas hums with that familiar electricity that only fight night can generate, the kind that vibrates through the seats long before the first punch is thrown. Under the bright lights and broadcast live to the world, another chapter is about to be written in the unforgiving story of the super welterweight division. This is not just about placed neatly on a card, not just another name versus another name. This is a crossroads fight, layered with expectation, doubt, ambition, and the quiet desperation of men. You know how quickly boxing can give and take everything away. As the announcer's voice echoes through the building, formalities begin. Judges are introduced, the referee steps into position, and the atmosphere tightens. 10 rounds are scheduled, but everyone watching understands that the real stakes stretch far beyond the final bell. For one fighter, this night represents belief bordering on defiance. For the other, it is about survival, redemption, and the long climb back to where he believes he belongs. Luis David Salazar makes his walk first, fighting out of the red corner, dressed in black with gray camouflage. His record tells a story of persistence rather than dominance. 20 wins, 1 loss, 7 knockouts. But records can be deceptive, and Salazar has arrived in Las Vegas carrying something far more dangerous than numbers. He carries belief. All week long, he's worn it openly, printed across his chest and stitched onto his hat in bold letters. Big upset. This isn't marketing bravado or borrowed confidence. This is a man who genuinely believes that this fight against this opponent on this stage is the moment his career changes forever. He sees this as the gateway into relevance, into the world title conversation, into a future that until now has only existed in his imagination. Across the ring stands Israil Madrimov, the man Salazar must defeat to turn that belief into reality. Fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white with gray trim, Madrimov cuts a different figure entirely. His record is shorter but denser, packed with experience forged under pressure. 10 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, 7 knockouts. And a resume that includes holding the WBA super welterweight world title. He is known as the Dream, but dreams in boxing are rarely soft or gentle. They are sharp, demanding, and often cruel. Madrimov's presence alone commands attention. A product of Uzbekistan's famously disciplined amateur system. He was thrown into deep waters from the start of his professional career. 10 and 12 round fights were not something he worked toward. They were what he was given. Rankings across the major sanctioning bodies reflect his standing in the division. A man still considered elite even after setbacks. But tonight, for the first time in a long while, there is a quiet uncertainty surrounding him as the referee brings both men to center ring and delivers final instructions. There's a sense that this fight is less about rules and more about questions. Protect yourself at all times, obey my commands. The gloves touch, and with that brief gesture of sportsmanship, the doubts and hopes of months, even years, are about to collide. When the bell rings, it isn't just the start of round 1. It is the beginning of Madrimov's climb back to the top. From the opening seconds, the contrast between the two men becomes apparent. Madrimov moves with a measured calm, his footwork subtle but purposeful, his upper body in constant motion. This is not wasted movement. It is the product of years of high-level boxing, designed to disrupt rhythm and create hesitation. Salazar, meanwhile, stays compact, alert, clearly aware that he is stepping into unfamiliar territory. There isn't much high-level footage of him against opponents of Madrimov's caliber, and that mystery cuts both ways. Madrimov doesn't know exactly what Salazar will bring, and Salazar knows that once Madrimov begins to find his range, things could change quickly. The first round feels like a chess match disguised as a fistfight. Neither man commits fully. Jabs flick out more as probes than weapons. Madrimov in particular is cautious, almost restrained. It's noticeable. This is a fighter known for sharp bursts of offense, for explosive angles and sudden power, yet here he is, taking his time. There is reason for that caution. It has nothing to do with fear of Salazar. Madrimov has been through more in the past year than most fighters endure in a lifetime. 2 surgeries, one on his shoulder and another on his meniscus, have forced him into long stretches away from the ring. More alarming than the physical injuries was a bout with pneumonia that refused to resolve itself. He traveled across the world in search of answers, consulting specialists in Germany, India, and the United States. Even now, he is still in the middle of a year-long treatment plan. By his own admission, he is not 100%. Tonight is as much a test of himself as it is a test of his opponent. That reality hangs over every movement he makes. He does not rush. He does not overcommit. He feels his way into the fight, gauging how his body responds, how his lungs hold up, how his timing returns under real pressure. Salazar, for his part, seems content to survive the early moments. He has won 5 fights in a row, 4 by knockout, mostly in the Dominican Republic. It's a recent surge that suggests a fighter coming into his strength, a man discovering his adult power. But there is a difference between momentum built in familiar environments and momentum tested on a stage like this, against an opponent like this. Salazar knows it, even if he won't admit it out loud. Midway through the round, Madrimov lands a left hook that snaps Salazar's attention instantly. It's not a crushing blow, but it's a message. Salazar has felt Madrimov's power now, and it is real. The commentary team notes it immediately, pointing out how that single shot changes the dynamic, how it forces Salazar to recalibrate his confidence just a bit. As the round winds down, there is a sense that Madrimov is still holding something back. He's doing enough to control the space, enough to establish his presence, but not enough to truly assert dominance. It's solid, competent boxing. But not yet the statement some expected. The second round begins much the same way, but with subtle shifts that only experienced eyes fully catch. Madrimov starts to vary his attacks, touching the body more deliberately. A jab to the midsection, a feint upstairs, a half step to the side. These are not random choices. Salazar has a habit of dropping his right hand when he throws his jab, and Madrimov's team has clearly identified it. The challenge now is setting the trap without exposing himself. Salazar remains patient, perhaps overly so. His game plan at this stage appears to be survival, to get through these early rounds without taking damage, hoping that as the fight goes longer, opportunities will emerge. But patience can easily slide into passivity, and against a fighter like Madrimov, that is dangerous territory. The commentators talk about Madrimov's amateur pedigree, his ability to lull opponents into a false sense of security with constant upper body movement. It's a style that doesn't just evade punches. It disrupts timing and creates openings where none seem to exist. Salazar, who boasts over 300 amateur fights of his own, understands the language of boxing well enough. But understanding and executing under pressure are two very different things. As the round progresses, Madrimov continues to test the waters. He targets the body again, noticing how Salazar reacts, how his posture changes under impact. There's a fleeting moment when Salazar is stopped in his tracks by a shot downstairs, and Madrimov's corner will certainly take note of it. The body, after all, does not lie. It accumulates damage silently, and when it finally speaks, it does so loudly. Still, there is a sense of restraint. Madrimov is not overwhelming Salazar, not yet. Some might interpret that as caution bordering on hesitation. Others see it as intelligence, a veteran understanding that this fight is not just about winning a round, but about managing a comeback, about pacing himself through 10 rounds after everything his body has endured. Beyond the ropes, the implications of this fight ripple outward. Madrimov's team has been clear about their ambitions. They believe he is in the mix for massive fights at junior middleweight. Names like Jaron Boots-Ennis and Virgil Ortiz circulate in conversations backstage, and while those matchups remain uncertain, the reality is this: a strong performance tonight keeps Madrimov relevant in those discussions. A poor one complicates everything. That pressure is invisible, but ever-present. Every jab, every feint, every decision to engage or disengage carries weight, Salazar. Meanwhile, continues to search for answers. He has trained hard, spent months in camp sparring elite fighters, relocated to the United States to sharpen his skills. He didn't come here to be a footnote. But as the rounds tick by, it becomes increasingly clear that belief alone will not be enough. He needs to disrupt Madrimov's rhythm to force exchanges to make this uncomfortable. So far, he hasn't found the key. As the early rounds unfold, the story of the fight settles into focus. This is not a wild brawl or a shocking upset unfolding in real time. It is a measured, strategic contest defined by one man's attempt to reassert himself after adversity and another man's attempt to rise beyond his perceived limits.